So guys, welcome to one important session, that is Oracle, SQL and PL by SQL. And this is the agenda of this session. Just have a look. This is the agenda of this session. So this is the Oracle course only, but before I start the session, I would like to tell you, or I will tell you first why you should learn Oracle. What is the use of Oracle? So we'll start with software architecture, and then I'll explain about one type, two type, and three tier architectures. And then I'll explain you what is full stack web development and what are the different layers we have in full stack web development, and what technologies you have to learn to become a full stack web developer, and how many types of web developers are there. So that will be the agenda of today's session. So let's start with software architecture. What do you mean by a software architecture? So software architecture defines how the important components of a software will be organized and assembled, or how they get organized and assembled. Every software application consists of various layers, or we can say various functionalities, each of which corresponds to a different service or integration. Means different software components, they are going to interact with each other, and each software component is going to provide a different service. So there are totally three tiers in software architecture. There are totally three types of software architectures are there. One is one-tier architecture, second one is two-tier architecture, and third one is three-tier architecture. Let's try to understand what these architectures are. But before we move on to this deep explanation on these architectures, on these software architectures, we must know that there exist three layers in each application architecture. Means each layer, each software architecture, we have three layers. The first one is the user interface layer, second one is the business layer, and third one is backend or database layer. Guys, these words may be a little bit hard for you right at this moment, but don't worry. I'll explain you each and every concept in detail by comparing with the language what we have learned. And I'm sure that everyone who is attending this session definitely will have some basic knowledge of programming, and that is C or C++, or you might have learned Python. Is it clear? Because that knowledge is very, very important before you start with any database application. So what is user interface? It is the layer that is visible to the user and the one with which the user interact. The user gives inputs, instructions through this, and the output is also displayed on this layer only. Means you can just consider the very basic example of your C programming language, the adding of two numbers example you can consider. The very basic example of your C program, adding of two numbers. Okay, so in that adding of two numbers program, if you see, you are going to write some statements like printf, enter first number, enter second number, and the result is displayed below those two lines. So that the visible screen, is it clear? We call it as a user interface. And business layer, this layer contains all the models and logics, provides the functionality to the application. The actual logic, which is not visible to the end user, that is the backend process actually. It also acts as an intermediate layer between user interface as well as the database layer. So in simple terms, I can say you're writing one instruction like C equals to A plus B, or if you're trying to calculate average of three subjects, then you'll be writing total equals to first subject plus second subject plus third subject, and average equals to total divided by 3. So that particular lines, we call it as a business layer. or if you are calculating the grade, then you'll be writing some if-else statement. So that everything we call it as a business layer. Okay, and the last one is known as like backend or database layer. This layer stores all the data that the software needed. Means whatever the input you are giving to the program, and the program is going to generate some output based upon some program's logic. So that input output, is it clear? The output is nothing but the final information. That everything will be stored permanently in the database layer. But while working with C programming language in the initial days, you are not working with the third layer. You're just having only two layers, the presentation layer and the business layer. Because I think there are very few students who works with file handling in C language. And if you are the one who have worked with file handling in C language, then it means that you have touched the backend or the database layer also. Okay, so file handling represents the backend or the database layer. So I've explained these three layers by taking simple C programming language example. Hope you got clarity on this. Now, let me explain what is this one-tile architecture. Guys, this is very, very important discussion, and whatever the knowledge you're gaining from this, this will really help you to develop big projects in future. So if an application is developed using C language or C++ or by using MS Access, such applications are known as one-tier architecture based applications. They have one-tier architecture. Those applications are also known as standalone applications. They are also known as desktop applications. Imagine you can, the C language application, you have the building software you have developed using C language for a small business which is near to your house, a small general store. Okay, one single person is running that store, and you have designed a software for them. Okay, so for developing a software for a general store, you need not to use any big applications like Java, Python. You can use simple C language, and you can develop an application for that person. So try to understand things in a professional way. The application what you have built, finally, once you compile it and run it, you are going to generate an .exe file. You are going to generate an .exe file. Okay, and that .exe file, as well as you are going to store the data of that particular application in files. So there may be a number of data files. Okay, with the extension .dat or any extension you can give as per your requirement. So 1.dat, 2.dat, there will be so many data files, and this we call it as a one-tier architecture. So the program what you have written in C language consists of two logics: the presentation logic, that's nothing but the input-output part, and the business logic, which takes care of converting your input to output, and finally the data is stored. So everything is running on one single machine. Everything is stored on one single computer. That we call standalone application or desktop application or one-tier architecture based application. Now, here our focus should be on the database. Like, why you are storing data? So I'll give you one real life example, guys. Listen carefully. A customer is coming and buying some 5 to 6 products from our store, and we are providing some 10% discount. Okay, and the total bill is like 1300 rupees. 1300 rupees is the total bill, and the customer is giving 2000 rupees note to us. Then we'll enter, like, total bill amount will be generated automatically. Customer paid cash 2000, then change to be given to the customer, automatically you will get 700. So guys, this is we call user experience. You need to develop a real-time application in this way. So the person who is at the billing counter need not to calculate the change to be given to the end user. This will be calculated automatically. So this everything must be stored in the database. It should be stored permanently for tomorrow's purpose. Now let me ask you the question, like, why the data has to be stored? See, after a few days, if the customer is coming and saying that this product is having the expiry date or this product is damaged, then you should return that product. So before you return that product and you give another product to the customer, you need to check first. You need to check first whether this product has been purchased from your store or not. And you'll able to check only if the data is stored. So the end goal of every software application is not your submission as a part of your college examination. The end goal of every software development is reports, such as knowing the total sales made by the month end, at the month end, customer of the month. Customer of the month means like throughout the month, we can calculate that which customer has purchased like more products from us, like which customer has given more business. We can keep their photo as customer of the month, and it will make very proud to the customer, and that customer will become very loyal to that business actually. So we can have customer of the month, and customer, suppose if you are giving products on credit, so at the end of every month you need to get that credit recovery. So you should know like how many dues are there from the customers. You should be in a position to know that which are the fast selling products, and you should know how many products are getting returned so that you can stop selling those products. Is it clear? And you should understand which are the slow moving products, because once you identify that these are the slow moving products, then you can invest less in that and you can invest more on the fast moving products. And you can know the closing stock, like how much stock is left at the end of the month. And you can know about the sales reorder levels. Sales reorder levels means, suppose if there are 10 soaps are there, and when a customer comes and purchases a soap, then automatically the quantity will be reduced. And whenever it reaches to 3 or 5, you can set your reorder level. Then automatically you'll get a beep sound, or you'll get one notification on the screen saying that this particular product has reached the reorder level. That's something, but you have to place an order again. Means you should not wait till the stock becomes zero. So if the stock becomes zero, and if any customer comes and he asks, and if you are unable to sell that, that is very bad at your store. Means that is very remark at your store actually. So you should not send any customer without giving product if he is asking it. Okay. So and again, to increase more sales in your business, you need to calculate customers like salesman's commissions also. And you can give best sales performing salesmen's performing months, which are the best sales performing months. You should know it. So if few months are there who are not performing like good sales, at that time you can run some discounts to increase the sales, profit and losses. Guys, reports are the backbone of every business, and with reports only business owner can take decisions. So to generate reports, data should be available. Reports are generated based upon the available data only. So finally, I want to conclude that whether it is one-tier architecture or two-tier or three-tier, data plays very, very important role. Why? Because based upon the data only, business owners are going to take decisions. So try to understand the importance of data. So this is we call standalone application. But if the business grows actually, instead of running a small single store, the shop owner has increased his business to like 2 to 3 floors. Okay, and each floor, if he is having like 50 to 60 customers at a point of time, then if he is having only one billing counter like earlier for small store, then it will be very difficult to satisfy n number of customers. So you should have multiple billing counters. You should have multiple billing counters. In fact, you can have billing counter at every floor, or you can have multiple billing counters at one single floor. But the thing is, you need to have multiple billing counters. Now try to understand the technologies what we have used for one-tier architecture for developing desktop or standalone applications like C, C++, MS Access, that you cannot use it for developing two-tier architecture based applications. So this is, I'm going to explain two-tier architecture based LAN-based application. So LAN-based application means we are not having any chain of stores. We are having only one single store, but it is spread over multiple floors, or it is spread over a particular radius. Now, when we have these multiple billing counters, then the data should be stored somewhere in a separate system. That's what we call database actually. Because if there are 10 soaps, and from this billing counter, if customer is buying one soap, it should make 9. And from here, if someone is buying 4 pieces, then it should become like 5. Means the database should be at the centralized level. The database should be stored here, and application should run on the client place. Means on the desktop computer or on the laptop computer. So the technologies which are required to develop these desktop applications is totally different again. I'm not going to explain deep into those technologies, but I would like to tell one important point, that the presentation layer as well as the business layer, both are running at the client place. Is it clear? And the database is the database server is holding just the data, the final updated data. So in LAN-based client-server architecture, your client is fat, because the whole burden of processing data, sending data to server, fetching data from the server, that everything is taken care at this level only. Okay. Now your server is thin and client is fat. So I won't go much deep into this, like why we require the next type of architecture, or why we need to have a web-based. I'm not going too deep into that, because the objective of this course is explaining the importance of data. So even in two-tier architecture also, you can see that without having database, the applications are like handicapped. Database is the one actually which gives the information to this application, and through this only these applications will work. So database plays very, very important role. And this is two-tier architecture only, but this is web-based. Okay. So in web-based, the client is thin and server is fat. How? Because the client side, you're not going to run any program. Client side, you're going to have only one small application. That's nothing but your browser. Is it clear? Or a small interface. And via internet connection, you will be interacting with a remote server. You will be interacting with a remote server. So in this server, your business logic as well as your database, even your presentation logic also will be here only. But upon the request, this presentation logic will be given to the client. Okay. So client will have only one small application, that is browser, and using this browser will be opening by giving the URL of that software, will be accessing the software. So whole burden is at the server only. So as the number of products or number of entries increases, there is a huge burden on the server. So in order to reduce the burden on the server, the concept of three-tier architecture came into picture, where presentation layer is separated, application layer is separated, and database layer is separated. Database will take care of only storing and managing the data. Application layer will take care of executing the business logic, and presentation layer will take care of presenting the data on the required client. Means here client means it may be a desktop application, it may be an application running on a laptop, it may be an application running on a mobile, it may be an application running on a tab. So we can have different presentation layers, and all these presentation layers, see, you are inputting data, you are interacting with the application through any channel, but finally you are going to execute this business logic only, and this business logic is depending upon this data only. In simple terms, I can say, whether you are accessing your Facebook from tab or from your desktop or from your mobile, you are going to get the same information. Means Your entries may be different types, but finally you are going to interact with this database. So this is we call three-tier architecture based. In all these three architectures, whether it is one tier, two tier, or three tier, database plays very important role. And without database, no application will exist. That you have to understand. And now, what is full stack web development? Full stack development. It refers to the development of both front end, that's nothing but client side, and back end, server side portions of web application. And you all know that web application is nothing but an application which runs on internet. So developing applications which runs over the internet are known as actually web applications. And to develop those web applications, we require client side as well as server side. And the one who is developing both client side and server side, then it is known as actually full stack development. So it refers to the development of both front end and back end portions of web application. Means if you take a web application, it will have two portions. One is the front end portions, which is visible to everyone. Second one is back end, which is not visible actually. So it is the ability to design the complete web application or the complete website. Then it is known as full stack development. And these are the full stack development technologies, some of the popular full stacks. Java full stack web development, Mean full stack web development, MERN full stack web development, Django, Ruby, LAMP. But among all this, if you take database is very important. So in this, we can use any database like Oracle, Sybase, Ingress, Unified, DB2. There are hundreds of databases. We can use it for Java full stack web development. When it comes to Mean, MongoDB you are using, MERN, MongoDB you are using, Django, you are using MySQL as database, Ruby, Rails, you are using MySQL as database, LAMP, you are using MySQL as database. Means without having database application, without having database, you cannot develop a software application. Remember this point. So now I'm going to discuss about the layers of full stack web development. So in full stack web development also, you'll come across this kind of layers like presentation layer, which is known as front end, business layer, or we can say business logic layer, which is known as back end, and the database layer. Means the same three-tier architecture concept only nowadays as provided with a fancy term. I am working with the three-tier architecture since 15 years of my, is it clear, experience. Like since 15 years, I am working on the three-tier architecture based technology. But nowadays, since few years, people are using this terminology like full stack. Full stack is also refers to front end as well as back end. And when you say front end and back end, it comes again like presentation layer, business layer, as well as the database layer. So let's try to understand, because nowadays people are showing interest towards web applications only. So let's speak in terms of web application. So what is front end developer? Like who is a front end developer? So the one who is working on designing the front view of the website, the visible components of the website, that person is known as actually front-end developer. A front-end developer, if you want to become a front-end developer, you should have knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript at very basic level, at very core level actually. This is the mandatory one. After this, you have to learn some of the frameworks actually. Bootstrap, Angular, React, jQuery. There are tons of frameworks are there in the market. And whatever the trending framework is there, you have to learn that framework. And when it comes to back-end developer, we have two things to learn. One is languages, because a programming language is only the one who is going to take care of executing the business logic of the application. So that runs in a web server actually. Okay. And again, you need to store data into the database. So if you want to become a backend developer, you need to learn any one of the languages. That is the minimum requirement actually. Either Java, C#, Python, PHP, JavaScript, Ruby, Golang, There are so many languages are there, but at least you have to learn at least one language and at least one database you have to learn. Oracle is there, SQL Server is there, MySQL is there, Sybase is there. And again, along with this, you have to learn few frameworks, technology specific. Means when it comes to languages, in languages also you will see so many frameworks related to Java, related to Python, related to PHP. In the same way, database side also you'll find so many frameworks. So you have to learn those frameworks. And full stack developer means the one who is working on front end as well as the back end both. If a person works on front end as well as back end, then he is known as a full stack developer. And if you want to become a full stack developer, or if you want to become a back end developer, the mandatory thing is you need to learn SQL. So what is SQL? SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It is the language which is used to interact with the data which is there in the database. And SQL is the common query language for many of the databases. Means you take Oracle as one database, MySQL as database, SQL Server as database, Sybase, Ingress, Unify, DB2. There are dozens of databases are there. For all these databases, there is one common query language, and that is SQL. And I prefer teaching SQL and PL-based SQL through Oracle database, because that is one of the strongest database we have in the market actually. So that's why I teach students SQL and PL-based SQL via Oracle. And if you want to become a only front-end developer, then I think you need not to learn Oracle database. Is it clear? You need not to learn SQL. But today, there is a great demand for full stack web development only. You can search anywhere in Google. Today, there is a great demand for full stack development only. And as a part of this course, we are going to start Oracle, SQL, and PL-based SQL. And this is the complete picture which will give you an idea that without database, without backend, you cannot develop any real life application. So if you want to develop a real life application, if you want to get involved in real time projects, then knowledge of database is mandatory. You should have in-depth knowledge of at least one database, and through that you have to implement the complete SQL and PL-based SQL, and then you can migrate to any database as per the industry requirement. And this is the complete picture. By objective of this course is not full stack development. The course is about Oracle only, but I'm explaining all these things so that you will understand where Oracle stands actually, where SQL stands. If you see Oracle just as an individual module, independent module, you may think that, okay, learning of Oracle is not mandatory, and if you don't learn also, it's okay. But if you see in the market today, there is a great craze for full stack web development. You can search even in Google, and if you want to become a full stack developer or backend developer, is it clear? Like, see, if you like programming logic very much, then obviously you'll go on the backend side. And in backend side, if you want to go, you should have knowledge of database. That is very, 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 very important. So guys, this is the basic introduction of today's class. In this class, I have given some basic idea that why you need to work with Oracle, why you need to learn Oracle. Is it clear? Because simply if I start like Oracle, and Oracle is a database application, and this is how we need to install the software, and this is how we need to write SQL queries, then you may not understand the real importance of that particular subject. So that is the reason I thought that I can explain this course. I can start this course right from the exact industry requirement level, so that you'll understand the real importance of this course. And So this is about today's class, guys.